Part 1. The Endless Chase. You have been running for as long as you can remember. Maybe not with your feet, but with your heart. Every step in your life has been driven by a quiet, almost desperate need to reach something that always seems just beyond your grasp. You looked for it in people, in success, in books, in prayer, in pain. You thought that if you just worked hard enough, loved deeply enough, believed strongly enough, the distance between you and peace would finally disappear. But it never did. Every time you found a moment of beauty, it slipped away. Every answer dissolved into another question. You chased new paths, new teachers, new meanings. You told yourself that the next thing would finally make sense of all the emptiness inside. And each time, it didn't. The more you searched, the more distant everything felt. What was supposed to be a journey toward truth began to feel like a loop with no end. You started to believe that something was wrong with you, that maybe God had forgotten you. But what if it was never God you were chasing? What if you were running after the shadow of yourself, thinking it was something divine? No one told you that the seeker and the sought are not two separate beings. They are the same presence playing both roles. You, the one running, and the one you long to reach, have never been apart. Rumi once wrote that the moment you stop searching, the beloved appears. It sounds beautiful, but it also sounds impossible. Because how do you stop searching when your whole life has been built on the idea that something is missing? How do you stop when stopping feels like death? Yet that is the hidden truth every mystic learns at the edge of exhaustion. There comes a moment when the soul cannot move anymore. It is too tired to beg, too empty to pretend. That moment is not failure. It is awakening beginning to breathe through the cracks. When the running stops, silence enters. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence that holds everything. The silence that has always been waiting for you to listen. Inside it, you start to feel something you had missed all along. Presence. Not an idea, not an emotion, but something real. Something that was never gone. You begin to understand that your pain, your mistakes, even your loneliness, were not punishments. They were invitations. Every heartbreak that tore you apart was a door being carved open. Every unanswered prayer was a redirection, not a rejection. The beloved was never outside the labyrinth of your mind. He was the one building the walls, guiding you to realize that the only way out was inward. The illusion of distance begins to fade. The divine was never ahead of you or above you. It was always beneath your breath, behind your eyes, woven through every heartbeat. The truth is not a place you reach. It is what remains when the running ends. So pause for a moment. Breathe without chasing the next moment. Feel the space around you, the quiet pulse under your ribs. This is where the search ends. Not because you found what you were looking for, but because you discovered there was never anything missing. You are not walking toward the divine. You are walking within it. You are not a seeker on a path. You are the path itself, remembering its own shape. The one you have been chasing has been whispering your name from inside the silence since the beginning. If these words stir something in you, stay with that feeling. Let it unfold in you without rushing to define it. And when you are ready, if this message resonates, leave your thought below, subscribe, and walk this journey with us further inward, where the real search finally ends. Part 2. The Mirage of the World. There comes a time in every seeker's life when the world begins to blur. What once seemed solid, meaningful, and certain starts to dissolve at the edges. The things you thought would complete, you lose their weight. The relationships you believed were unbreakable begin to fade. The dreams that once pulled you forward start to feel strangely hollow. You look around and realize that everything you built your life on was made of sand, and the tide has started to rise. At first, you fight it. You cling to what you know. You tell yourself that this is just a phase, that you'll find new purpose if you just work harder or think deeper. You distract yourself with new books, new goals, new ways to escape the unease. But the world's promises no longer hold the same sweetness. The excitement you once felt has turned into a quiet ache. You begin to sense that what you're losing isn't just things, it's illusions. The illusion that the answers were ever out there. The illusion that peace could be earned by effort. The illusion that God was somewhere far away, waiting for you to arrive. The mind doesn't surrender easily. It keeps offering you more mirages, more versions of the same desert. It whispers, just a little further, just one more accomplishment, one more insight, one more person to love, one more apology to receive. And so you keep walking, thirsty, chasing reflections that shimmer and vanish the moment you reach them. But there comes a day when the thirst becomes unbearable, and the mirages can no longer distract you. The truth begins to break through the cracks in your certainty, and it feels like dying. In that dying, something extraordinary begins to happen. The false lights dim, and you notice a faint glow underneath. Something real, something still. You realize the chase itself has been the veil. Everything you've ever desired, everything you've ever suffered for, was the universe's way of turning you back to yourself. The world wasn't cruel for collapsing. It was merciful, because until your illusions fell apart, there was no room for what was true to enter. Rumi said, "Do not grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form." He wasn't talking about getting back what you lost. He was talking about transformation, about how every loss, every collapse, is the soul being rearranged to hold more light. The things that leave your life are not your punishment. They are your preparation. What feels like destruction is actually design. The world strips away what you are not, so you can remember what you've always been. When the mirage fades, you begin to see the real desert, vast, silent, honest. It no longer frightens you because it no longer deceives you. You start to feel something you haven't felt before, clarity. Not the clarity of answers, but the clarity of seeing without distortion. The colors of life return, not brighter, but deeper. The noise quiets, and in that stillness, you begin to sense presence again. The same presence that was there before the search began. Only now you can finally feel it. There is a strange peace in realizing you were never missing anything. The pain was not proof of absence, but proof of awakening. The more the world's illusions fall away, the closer you come to truth. Not because truth arrives, but because it has been waiting behind the mirage the entire time. So stop for a moment and look around. Let the world be what it is, temporary, fleeting, fragile. Let your heart rest from the chase. You do not need to hold on to anything to be whole. The truth is not something to possess. It is something to become aware of, and as the dust settles, as the last mirages fade into silence, you might notice a soft voice rising within you, the same one that has been calling your name through every illusion, every heartbreak, every longing. It says quietly, "You are the one you seek." If you're still here, listening, stay with me. Let this message breathe in you. And if it spoke to something deep inside, share that reflection below. subscribe, and allow yourself to walk further, not toward something new, but back to the one you have always been. Part 3. The collapse of seeking. There comes a breaking point. Every seeker reaches it. It doesn't arrive with thunder or revelation. It comes quietly, like a door closing behind you. You stop running, not because you've found what you were searching for, but because you no longer have the strength to keep moving. The prayers you once whispered feel dry. The words of wisdom that once comforted you now sound hollow. The fire that once drove you has burned everything it could touch. You stand in the ashes, and for the first time, there is nothing left to reach for. At first you panic. You try to resurrect the search. You read another book, meditate harder, repeat old rituals with new intensity. But nothing stirs. The silence that surrounds you is not gentle. It is heavy, suffocating, endless. It feels like being buried alive beneath your own questions. You wonder if you've lost your faith, your mind, or your place in the universe. But in truth, what is dying is not your spirit. It is your illusion of control. The seeker's journey always ends this way, not in triumph, but in surrender. It is the moment when all your effort collides with something immovable. You realize that no matter how hard you tried, you could never reach what you were looking for, because you were the one creating the distance. The divine was not hiding. You were. Every mantra, every discipline, every longing, they were not steps toward God, but walls between you and the truth that had always been within you. This collapse is terrifying because it feels like loss. The identity you built around being a seeker begins to crumble. You no longer know who you are without the chase. For years, maybe decades, you defined yourself by the journey, by your hunger for meaning. Now, without it, you feel naked, empty. And yet, beneath that emptiness, something begins to stir, not the excitement of discovery, but the quiet hum of presence, the stillness that was always there beneath your noise. It does not shout, it simply waits. You begin to notice small things, the sound of your breath, the weight of your body against the ground, the faint rhythm of your heartbeat. Life hasn't gone anywhere. It was never lost. You just weren't here to feel it. The mind that searched for light could not see that it was made of it. The seeker's fall is not the end. It is the beginning of seeing without effort. It is the death of illusion and the birth of clarity. Rumi once said, "When I lost everything, I found myself." You start to understand what he meant. You see how the universe has been dismantling everything that stood between you and what is real. The loss of direction, the silence of prayer, the emptiness inside, none of it was punishment. It was grace in disguise. The collapse is not destruction. It is purification. The walls that fall are the ones that kept the light from entering. You begin to sense that God has not been absent, only quiet. The silence you feared is not indifference, but intimacy. When the search stops, there is space for something else to arrive. Not an answer, but awareness. It feels different from anything you have known. It doesn't satisfy the mind. It doesn't give closure. It simply is. Vast, still, alive. The seeker does not find God. The seeker disappears, and God remains. That is the secret no one can teach you. It can only be lived. And as this truth begins to unfold within you, the panic fades. The need to know dissolves. You begin to understand that the fall was never a failure. It was the only way home. The collapse is grace. The silence is grace. The emptiness you feared is the space where the beloved finally enters. You stop trying to build meaning and start to let meaning reveal itself. You no longer demand that life speak to you in words. You listen to what it has been saying in silence all along. Sit with this. Don't rush to fix the emptiness. Let it breathe. Let it wash through you. This is the sacred undoing that every soul must face before it can remember itself. If you're hearing these words and something inside you softens, stay with that. It means the walls are beginning to fall. And when they do, you won't need to seek anymore. You'll see that the light was never hidden. It was only waiting for you to stop searching. And when this moment ends, if it speaks to your own journey, leave your thoughts below, subscribe, and continue with me. Because what comes next is not about seeking. It's about seeing. Part 4, the voice in the stillness. There comes a moment after the collapse when everything becomes strangely quiet. The noise that once filled your head fades away. The arguments, the questions, the endless reasoning, all of it loses its urgency. You are left with something raw and unfamiliar. Silence. Not the ordinary kind, but a living stillness that almost hums. At first, you resist it. You think something is wrong. The world has always taught you to fear quietness. It told you that silence means absence, that if God were truly with you, you would hear him speak. But now, you are beginning to learn a deeper truth. God has never been louder than in the silence you avoided. In that stillness, your thoughts slow down enough for you to notice what lies beneath them. There is a rhythm there, like a soft pulse that matches your breathing. You can't describe it, but you can feel it. It's as if the whole universe is breathing with you. You realize that the silence is not empty. It's full. It carries something vast, something aware. For the first time, you understand that the divine doesn't always speak in words. Sometimes he speaks through the weight of a pause, through the spaces between your thoughts, through the quiet calm that rises when you finally stop trying to control everything. You sit inside that silence, and slowly it begins to shift. You start to feel presence, not like someone entering the room, but like a veil lifting from your eyes. You notice that you are not separate from what you're feeling. You are not listening to silence. You are part of it. The line between you and everything else begins to fade. The trees outside, the distant hum of life, the air itself, they are no longer things you observe. They are you. The one who listens and the one being listened to are the same. At first, the mind protests. It doesn't understand what is happening. It wants to turn this piece into another concept, another experience to hold on to. But silence cannot be held. The moment you try, it slips away. You learn that the only way to stay with it is to surrender completely. You don't analyze it. You let it breathe through you. And in that surrender, something begins to speak, not in sound, but in knowing. The voice in the stillness is not a voice at all. It's the awareness that has been watching you all along. It doesn't say much. It doesn't explain the mysteries of the universe. It simply says, I am here. And somehow, those words mean everything. The longing you've carried for years, the ache that no love or knowledge could fill, begins to ease. Because now you know that what you were chasing was never missing. The voice you were begging to hear has always been whispering beneath your thoughts. You just needed to become quiet enough to listen. Rumi said, "Listen to silence. It has so much to say." You finally understand what he meant. The divine doesn't need to shout to be heard. His language is the quiet awareness behind all noise. His answer is not in the thunder, but in the stillness that follows. When you stop trying to interpret everything, when you stop demanding that the universe explain itself, you begin to feel what words can never express. It's not understanding, it's communion. You begin to realize that prayer was never about speaking to something outside yourself. It was always about remembering who was listening. Every time you reached out for God, He was reaching through you. The silence is not His absence. It is His presence when the mind finally steps aside. It's the moment the wave recognizes it has always been part of the ocean. The more you rest in that awareness, the less you need from life. The urgency fades, the hunger dissolves. You no longer seek meaning, you become it. You start to live with a quiet trust, not because you know what's coming, but because you no longer need to. You realize that you were never walking toward the divine. You were walking as the divine, every step of the way, so let yourself fall into this stillness. Let it hold you. Let it teach you how to listen, not with your ears, but with your being. And if this silence feels like home, it's because it is. It always was. If this speaks to you, stay with it. Don't rush back into noise. Leave your reflection below, subscribe, and walk with me deeper into this quiet, where the voice of everything speaks without sound. Part 5. The face behind the mirror. When the silence settles inside you, something begins to shift in how you see. The world doesn't change, but the way you look at it does. You start to notice patterns you missed before, a quiet intelligence flowing through everything. Even the smallest moments seem to shimmer with meaning. The wind against your face, the flicker of a candle, the reflection of light on water, they all carry a strange familiarity, as if they've been trying to tell you something for a very long time. And then one day, it hits you with the force of revelation. You've been looking at God all along, but through the distorted glass of separation. You used to imagine the divine as distant, high above, hidden behind clouds, waiting for you to become pure enough to be seen. You spent years searching for signs, hoping for a voice, a miracle, a confirmation that something greater was watching. But now, the mirror of illusion begins to crack. You see that what you were calling God was never somewhere else. It was the same awareness looking through your eyes, the same breath rising in your chest, the same heartbeat pulsing in every living thing. It's a truth so simple that the mind can't accept it. It wants to complicate it, explain it, build a structure around it. But the heart knows. The heart recognizes the face behind the mirror. It whispers, "It's you." Not the small you, not the frightened collection of thoughts you've been defending, but the infinite presence that's been hiding behind that mask all along. At first, this realization feels almost unbearable. You've spent your life believing you were separate from others, from love, from the divine. The idea that you were never divided shatters everything you thought you knew. You look into the mirror, and it's not just your reflection staring back. It's the reflection of every soul that's ever lived, every creature that's ever breathed. The boundaries begin to blur. You see that every face is your own face, in another form, another expression of the same endless essence. Rumi said, "Why are you so busy with this or that or good or bad? Pay attention to how things blend." You begin to understand. There are no opposites in truth. Light and shadow are parts of the same dance. Joy and pain are threads in the same tapestry. Even your mistakes, your heartbreaks, your doubts, they were never deviations from the path. They were the path. Every fragment was leading you back to this moment of recognition. You start to remember things your mind never learned. You remember that love was never something to find, only something to remove the barriers against. You remember that forgiveness is not a virtue, but a vision. The ability to see that there was never anything to forgive. You remember that you are not a visitor in this universe, but its reflection. The divine didn't create you and then leave. The divine became you. The wave didn't separate from the ocean. It simply forgot it was water. This recognition doesn't make you special. It makes you humble, because now you see that the same presence that lives in you lives in everyone. The same intelligence moving the stars moves through the veins of every living being. There is no me and them, no here and there. There is only one infinite awareness playing countless roles, pretending to forget itself so it can rediscover itself again and again. And once you see this, truly see it, the search for God ends, because the seeker and the sought are one. You stop praying to the sky and start listening to the heartbeat inside your chest. You stop asking for signs and start recognizing that every breath is a miracle. The face behind the mirror has always been your own. Now, when you look at the world, you don't see strangers or enemies. You see fragments of your own being reflecting back at you, sometimes in joy, sometimes in pain, but always as yourself. The mirror doesn't lie anymore. It just shows you where love has yet to be recognized. Sit with this. Let it burn gently through your illusions. Let it humble you until all that remains is presence. Silent, infinite, radiant. And if these words touched something in you, let it echo. Leave a trace below. Share this reflection and stay with me. Because in the next step, we go deeper, to the point where even the mirror disappears and only light remains. Part 6. The disappearance of the mirror. There comes a moment when even the mirror fades, when you have looked so deeply into yourself that there's nothing left to reflect. The seeker has vanished, the search is gone, and even the idea of finding dissolves like smoke in sunlight. What remains is not an image, not a thought, not even a feeling, but awareness itself, vast and wordless. You begin to understand that the mirror was only ever a tool, a way for the infinite to see its own face. Once it remembers, the need for reflection ends. You used to think enlightenment would feel like fireworks, a grand revelation, a divine spotlight blazing down on you. But it isn't like that. It feels more like disappearance, not the loss of self in a tragic sense, but the soft dissolving of boundaries, like ink spreading in water. The you who watched, judged, compared, and measured everything, that you fades quietly. In its place, there's just presence, simple, silent, infinite. This isn't something you can hold. It can't be proven or owned. The moment you try to capture it, it vanishes, because the one who wants to capture it doesn't exist anymore. There's no observer left, no witness standing apart from what's seen. Everything just is. The same awareness that breathes through your lungs is moving the stars. The same stillness resting in your heart is humming in the heart of every galaxy. There is no in or out, no beginning, no end, just one seamless whole, awake within itself. You realize now that the mirror was never outside you. It was made of your own consciousness. Every person you met, every joy, every wound, every heartbreak, all of them were fragments of your own being, reflecting back what you needed to see. Even the people who hurt you were mirrors showing you where love was still missing in you. The mirror's purpose was never to flatter, but to awaken. And once awakening begins, the glass starts to dissolve. The world doesn't vanish. It simply stops being the world. It becomes what it always was, God wearing form. You begin to live differently. The smallest things become sacred. You no longer rush to label experiences as good or bad. The mind still tries sometimes, but you can see through it now. See the divine hand behind both joy and sorrow. You no longer pray for peace. You are peace. You no longer seek love. You move as love. The ordinary becomes holy because there's no longer a wall between you and it. Washing your hands, speaking to a stranger, standing in line, everything is soaked in presence. You can feel God breathing through every second of it. Rumi once wrote, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." That's what it feels like now, to live as the ocean that once thought it was small. To move through the world not as someone trying to understand it, but as someone remembering it from the inside. You start to laugh at the simplicity of it all. How could you have searched so far for something that was never apart from you? The absurd beauty of it fills you with quiet gratitude. Every pain, every loss, every collapse, they weren't detours, they were invitations. Now, when you look into someone's eyes, you don't see another. You see the same light looking back. The reflection is gone because the separation was never real. The mirror didn't disappear because it broke. It disappeared because you finally walked through it. You no longer see God as something to worship. You see Him as everything that is, as this breath, this heartbeat, this moment unfolding right now. The world is still here, but it no longer holds you hostage. You can move through it lightly, as one who remembers the dream, but is no longer bound by it. You still feel joy, you still feel sorrow, but they flow through you without residue. You are no longer the one who resists life. You are life itself, awake, aware, and endlessly unfolding. If this resonates with you, don't try to hold on to it. Let it move through you. Let it remind you of what you already are. And if these words touch the quiet part of you that already knows this truth, stay. Reflect below, subscribe, and walk with me a little further. Because what comes next is not about disappearance, but return. The return of the divine into the ordinary, where enlightenment becomes life itself. Part 7. The return to the ordinary. After the disappearance, after the silence, after the revelation that you and the divine were never apart, something unexpected happens. Life returns. The world that once felt like illusion begins to move again, but it feels different now. The same sun rises, the same streets stretch before you, the same voices fill the air, yet everything glows faintly, as if lit from within. You are back in the ordinary world, but you are not the same. Something vast has settled quietly behind your eyes. At first, it's confusing. You wonder, what now? You've touched eternity, felt the dissolution of boundaries, seen through illusion, and yet you still have to pay bills, answer messages, wash dishes, and fold laundry. The world hasn't transformed into paradise, but your relationship with it has. The difference is subtle but immense. Before, you lived as if every moment were a test. Now, every moment is an expression. You no longer chase meaning. You embody it. You begin to notice beauty in places you never looked. The chipped paint on an old door, the sound of rain tapping on a window, a stranger's tired smile. These small moments hold something sacred. because you no longer divide life into sacred and ordinary. You see that the divine hides in simplicity. God doesn't only dwell in temples or stars. He lives in the folds of daily life, in laughter, in tiredness, in bread shared between hands. What once felt too small for reverence has become the altar. This return is not a fall from grace. It's the completion of it. Enlightenment was never meant to pull you away from the world. It was meant to let you walk through it awake. You learn that the true miracle is not escaping the human experience, but embracing it completely. The soul's purpose was never to fly away from the body, but to illuminate it from within. That's the secret most seekers miss. They chase transcendence, but forget that God came here to taste life through you. Rumi said, "You are not a seeker of the path. You are the path itself." You begin to understand how true that is. Every gesture, every choice, every act of kindness or patience, they're all the divine moving through form. There is no separation anymore. When you touch the world touches back. When you speak, it's not just your voice, it's life itself expressing in sound. You start to see that service, compassion, and love are not duties. They are the natural overflow of remembrance. You no longer live to get somewhere. The need for arrival is gone. You live because living itself is a kind of prayer. Breathing is prayer. Listening is prayer. Eating, walking, sitting quietly, all of it is part of the same sacred rhythm. The world didn't become holy. You just stopped believing it was anything less. You can feel divinity in motion, not as an abstract concept, but as a pulse, soft, rhythmic, constant. You begin to understand that heaven was never elsewhere. It was always here, in this. And yet, this simplicity doesn't make you passive. It makes you tender. You start to care more deeply about the smallest things because you can feel the divine in them. You speak softer, not out of politeness, but reverence. You begin to see that every encounter is an exchange with the beloved wearing another face. Every person who crosses your path, even for a moment, is a mirror through which love meets itself again. The return to the ordinary is not the end of the journey. It's the flowering of it. This is where the sacred begins to live in the everyday. You no longer need silence to hear God. You can hear Him in noise. You no longer need solitude to feel peace. You can find it in the crowd. You have become the meeting place between the infinite and the finite, a bridge through which light enters the world. So let life happen. Let the world be messy, beautiful, fleeting. Don't hide your divinity behind seriousness. Let it laugh. Let it dance. Let it love. This is not about becoming something greater. It's about remembering that you already are. And if this truth stirs something in you, stay with it. Leave your reflection below, subscribe, and walk further with me. Because in the next step, we reach the heart of it all. The moment when love becomes not something you feel, but something you are. Part 8. The heart that became the sky. When you stop searching for God and begin to live as God's awareness, something extraordinary happens. The stillness that once seemed separate from the world begins to move through everything you touch. The peace you found in silence starts to radiate into motion, into sound, into relationship. Love, which once felt like an emotion, becomes a state of being, vast, weightless, and unstoppable. It no longer needs an object. It simply flows, like sunlight through open air. You start to understand what Rumi meant when he said, "Love is the bridge between you and everything." This love is not sweet or sentimental. It is fierce, alive, real. It burns away the remnants of separation, the small walls that still whisper, "This is me. That is you." You begin to feel that everything you once called other, every face, every shadow, every star, is part of your own heartbeat. The divine no longer feels distant because it's not being worshipped. It's being lived. You notice it first in your tenderness. You look at people differently now, not as roles, not as stories, not as strangers, but as living expressions of the same presence. Even the ones who wound you, even the ones you don't understand, you can see the same spark moving behind their eyes. You begin to realize that compassion isn't something you try to give. It's something that pours naturally from seeing clearly. You cannot separate yourself from anyone without forgetting what you are. There's a new kind of strength that comes with this. You stop needing to defend yourself because you understand that what's real cannot be threatened. You stop trying to prove your worth because you know the light in you doesn't compete. It illuminates. You no longer seek to be understood because you finally understand yourself. The ache for approval fades, replaced by the joy of simply being. You are no longer a fragment trying to fit into the world. You are the whole, meeting itself through countless forms. The world still brings pain, but it no longer breaks you. Suffering doesn't vanish, but it changes its nature. You begin to see it as part of the same divine movement, the way fire shapes gold, the way storms cleanse the air. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to whisper, "What is this revealing in me?" Love turns everything into revelation. Even heartbreak becomes holy because you can feel the beloved reshaping you through it. There is a quiet majesty in this state. You start to live without resistance. You trust life, not because it's easy, but because you can finally see its design. You understand that everything is a form of communication between the infinite and itself. A falling leaf, a stranger's kindness, a sudden silence, all of it is God speaking to God. And in that recognition, the boundary between prayer and existence disappears. Every breath becomes worship. Every heartbeat becomes remembrance. Rumi said, "I looked for God and found only myself. I looked for myself and found only God." You live that now, not as a thought, but as truth embodied. You see that love is not something you give or receive. It's what everything is made of. The trees breathe it. The oceans carry it. The air hums with it. Every atom is an act of devotion. You walk through life as one who has remembered the secret, that the entire universe is in love with itself, disguised as motion, sound, and form. And as this love expands, it becomes effortless. You no longer choose to love. You simply cannot help it. You don't forgive because you should. You forgive because you see there was never a wound, only misunderstanding. You don't try to save anyone. You simply recognize the light in them until they remember it themselves. This is what it means to live as the heart that became the sky. Boundless, still, radiant. The more you live this way, the more invisible you become. Not because you disappear, but because you blend with everything. You no longer cast a shadow. You move like wind, felt but unseen, transforming whatever you touch. The old you that wanted recognition fades into the vastness, and in its place rises peace, quiet, luminous, complete. So let this love take you. Let it reshape how you see, how you breathe, how you exist. Stop trying to hold it. You can't. It's too infinite to be owned. Just let it move through you until nothing remains but light. And if these words touch that infinite in you, don't hold back. Reflect below, subscribe, and stay. Because in the final step, we'll close the circle. When love returns to silence, and silence reveals itself as God. Part 9. The return to silence. There comes a point where even love becomes too vast for expression. It stretches beyond language, beyond emotion, beyond even the need to share. You feel it everywhere, in the breath between words, in the stillness before dawn, in the spaces between heartbeats. It no longer burns or soothes. It simply is. What once felt like discovery now feels like remembering. What once felt like movement now feels like resting. You have come full circle. The search began in silence, and it ends here, in the same silence. But now it is understood. You realize that everything has been speaking the same message from the beginning. The noise of life, the ache of longing, the beauty of love, even the moments of despair. All of them were just different tones in the same divine song. The silence you once feared was never the absence of God. It was His most intimate presence, so close that your mind couldn't grasp it. Now, you no longer listen for a voice. You listen to everything as His voice. Even the quiet hum of your own breath feels sacred. The great paradox of awakening is that it ends where it began. The seeker dissolves, the path disappears, and what remains is simply being. You understand now that God never wanted worship. He wanted recognition. He didn't hide behind the stars or the scriptures. He hid behind your eyes. Every prayer, every tear, every longing was the divine calling itself home. The silence was not a wall. It was the doorway. Now, when you sit alone, you don't feel loneliness. You feel immensity. You feel the presence that has always been holding everything together, the still pulse behind creation. Words become unnecessary because they can't hold what you know now. Even knowing feels too small. There is only being, pure, effortless being. The heart that once reached outward has turned inward, and there it has found the universe resting quietly inside. This silence is not empty. It's alive. It vibrates softly, as if the entire cosmos were breathing through it. It is gentle, but absolute. Within it, time slows, and the mind loses its grip. There's no past, no future, no story to tell. Only this eternal now, endlessly unfolding, endlessly complete. You realize that you could stay here forever, and nothing would be missing. Because this is what everything was pointing to. Every rise and fall, every joy and heartbreak, every illusion and awakening. It all led here, to this vast, tender stillness. Rumi said, "Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation." Now you understand. The more you listen, the more you see that words can only circle around truth. They can hint at it, but they can't contain it. Silence, though, contains everything. It is the final teaching, the final love, the final home. It doesn't promise peace. It is peace. It doesn't need to be understood. It only needs to be felt. You begin to live from this place without trying. You speak less, but everything you say carries weight. You move slower, but everything you touch feels sacred. You no longer need to explain yourself, to prove, to justify. You are free, not because you gained something, but because you lost everything that was false. This is what grace truly is, the quiet returning of all things to their rightful simplicity. When people ask you what you found, you smile. You can't describe it, and you don't need to. You just live it. You listen more. You love quietly. You walk gently through the world as if it were holy ground, because it is. The divine doesn't visit anymore. It abides. The silence doesn't end. It breathes with you, through you, as you. And then, one evening, as the light fades and the sky turns indigo, you realize that nothing ever happened to you, only through you. There was no journey, no seeker, no end, just the eternal presence dreaming itself awake, then falling back into silence again. So here we are, not at the finish, but at the beginning again. The silence remains, the same silence that spoke your name when you first began to search, the same silence that watched patiently as you wandered, the same silence that welcomed you home. If you can feel that silence now, even for a breath, stay with it. Don't rush to turn it into thought. Let it speak in its own way. And if this touched the quiet within you, let that be your only response. Sit with it. Let it echo. And if you wish, share your reflection below, subscribe, and keep walking with me. Not toward something new, but deeper into what has always been here. Because this is how the story ends, not with sound, not with revelation, but with the quiet truth that needs no words. You were never apart. You were always home. Part 10, The Light That Remains. When the story ends, there is no applause, no revelation, no climax, no grand curtain closing, only light. The same light that was there at the beginning, before you knew yourself as anything at all. The same light that watched you grow, stumble, break, and rise again. The same light that burned quietly inside every question you ever asked. It was never waiting to be found. It was waiting to be seen. You look back and realize that nothing was wasted. Every wound was a doorway. Every fall was an initiation. Every silence was a lesson disguised as emptiness. The divine never abandoned you. It was shaping you, slowly, through the fires of experience, into something transparent enough for its own light to shine through. What you called your life was God learning how to see himself through your eyes. Now, there are no more lessons, only presence. The striving has ended. The idea of arrival has dissolved. You no longer walk toward truth. You walk as truth. The mind has become quiet enough to serve, the heart open enough to hold everything. What remains is not a person, not a seeker, not a saint. Only awareness wearing human skin, breathing, smiling, existing without reason. You see the world and it glows softly, like an old photograph touched by light. Every sound feels sacred. Every motion feels like prayer. The air itself hums with belonging. You no longer try to define God, because you can finally see him in everything, in the dust that rises, in the laughter of children, in the tired eyes of strangers. The separation that once seemed so real has melted away. What's left is wholeness, fragile, infinite, perfect. Rumi once said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." You smile, because now you understand the full meaning of those words. The light doesn't enter through your perfection. It enters through your cracks. It shines where you thought you were broken. And in that radiance, you see that your flaws were never mistakes. They were the openings through which love poured itself into being. There's no need to cling to enlightenment. It isn't something you hold. It's something you allow. It's the gentle awareness that breathes in the background of every moment. You don't have to chase it anymore. It's what you are. The same light that flickers behind your eyes is the same light rising in the stars. You and the cosmos are not two. You are a single flame remembering its own fire. You begin to live lightly, almost invisibly, not out of detachment, but out of wonder. You know now that everything is fleeting, and that's what makes it sacred. You don't need permanence to find peace. You find it in movement, in the rise and fall of waves, in the inhale and exhale of life. You begin to understand that eternity is not beyond time. It's inside it, shining through every moment that passes. And as this realization deepens, there is nothing left to seek, nothing left to protect, nothing left to fear. You can love fully because you are no longer afraid of losing. You can live deeply because you are no longer afraid of dying. You are not chasing heaven anymore. You are carrying it with you. The divine has found its home in the smallest gestures: a breath, a glance, a heartbeat. You have become what you were looking for. Now, as the light fades and silence settles again, you close your eyes. There are no words left, only gratitude. Not the kind that prays for blessings, but the kind that recognizes that everything was a blessing all along. The journey wasn't about becoming something more. It was about remembering what you never stopped being, the light behind it all. And when the last sound fades, when the screen turns dark, what remains is simple: awareness, breathing, eternal. The story dissolves, the names fade, but the light stays. The same light that began it all, the same light that watched you awaken, the same light that, in truth, has never gone anywhere. Because in the end, Rumi was right. You are not the seeker, you are not the journey. You are the light that remains.